But dude, I've been looking at this B-Boy Tech Report. Do you check that every once in a while?
I've heard it. I haven't really checked it very much though.
Yeah, me neither. To be honest with you, I just kind of got into it. But he has good articles, really good articles actually. I don't know if he read that. Yeah, he wrote this too. So I mean, I'm looking at this article about the Korg announcement. They just released a new Microkorg S.
Oh right.
Yeah, I mean, we're both pretty familiar with the Microkorg, right?
Yes.
The vocoder, based sort of centric synthesizer that Korg put out some time ago. When did that shit come out? I don't even know. I should have probably looked that up beforehand.
It's been a couple years, I think, at least.
Yeah, the Microkorg's been out for a while, right? It was on what made it famous? Something made it famous. Something West Coast. Was it Dre? It was. Yeah, I don't know. It's not important.
Korg is that like quintessential like West Coast sound, like those leads and shit that come out of there. It's money for that.
Oh, for sure it is. Yeah, definitely. It's this new one is super interesting though because it has a built-in speaker system.
Oh.
So yeah, I know, right? That's what I said. I was like, oh, that's something that I would probably want to hear. And apparently, like it's really good from all the reviews that I'm seeing. I listened to the YouTube on my cans, like my studio cans, and it sounded pretty good. I mean, like if that's the audio that was really captured from the Microkorg, it sounded like it was a legit thing, which is dope.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at it right now because it does have a little. It's got a little speaker system that comes with it. Features a built-in 2+1 speaker system with power that far exceeds its size. At $499 too, like that's phenomenal. Like just if you want to get into hardware, like you're in right there.
Yeah, I still don't like their. I think they mentioned it too. Yeah, the Matrix style editing, how it's like kind of step sequence to actually modulate and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, at this point in my career, I think I could probably handle it, but starting out, it would probably be a little tough to get your head around that. But especially the low end, like I think that's what this machine was known for, was its bass sounds. At least that's what stood out most to me whenever I used it, was its bass sounds and the vocoder.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, but it sounds like it's taken after its predecessor in that regard with the low end.
Yeah.
I definitely got to see if Guitar Center has that on hand so I could go ahead and start turning some knobs with that shit.
Definitely. Yeah, I saw something dope in Guitar Center the other day that they're doing rentals now, which I think is a phenomenal thing on all of their gear. Like you can rent it out and give it a try. So like, yeah, I mean, that's big steps, because like this is a big investment for some. $500 may not be much for somebody who's deep in the game, but I still at $500 for me, I got to think about it for a while before I'm willing to plop down $500.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I spent about, probably not $500. I spent $299 on my base station, and it was still like that was a major purchase. I was like, okay, what? I mean, and I love my base station. It's a great little synth, especially to learn on. There's so many. It's all so tangible.
Yep.
But it's definitely something for where the producers podcast, made by the everyday producer.
Right.
So, like for us, $300 is like, oh, okay. Or even like this 500,
Yeah.
you're thinking twice about it. That's not a one click. That's not Amazon one click.
No, absolutely not. Yeah. You're not buying that straight off the page. Without it hitting the cart first and at least thinking about it and looking at some options to plop down that kind of bread. Because it's a tough world out there, especially with some of these beat prices coming down. And you look at some of these prices that people sell their beats for now versus even 5-10 years ago. It's a way different game now.
Way different game. Different game. And like we can get into that a little bit as far as like how people are selling their beats for. I'm seeing like buy one get three frees. I'm seeing like fucking $15 leases and all this shit, and I'm like, it's just if you look at it like it's bad, then it will be. Is kind of how I'm approaching it.
Yeah.
Like if that's just the landscape of the game now, then that's just what it is. At least online.
Right.
You know, if that's just what it is, that's what it is. But at the end of the day, you know, there definitely needs to be a push. I see the Justice League talk about this a lot, at least Rook from the Justice League. He talks about, you know, valuing your music a little bit more.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like it, and you should, especially if you're putting hours and hours and hours into, you know, trying to get better at this shit. It's no walk in the park. You should get compensated.
Yeah.
But, you know, if people want to, you know, lease shit for $15. I'm not even saying like I haven't done it. I've done it before. I tried, you know, but it is what it is now. You know, you can't.
I mean, DJ Payne 1 touched on it a lot too, you know, the valuing, you know, the time and the effort, and not just the time and the effort that it took you to create the track. Like stuff like this right here, where we were just talking about the core, the time and the effort that you took, you know, milling over decisions of what DAW you were going to get and what plugins you were going to buy, you know, what sample libraries you were going to look at. You know, that stuff takes time as well.
Research,
to go through. Time and research to go through that stuff. And then, I mean, the artistic craft, you know, valuing your art. You know, I know people that do tattoos and stuff like that, and, you know, people kind of get sticker shock sometimes on artwork, and you're like, look what went into this. It's years and years of somebody's hard work that's out on the table there. So yeah, I mean, you know, the $15 beat thing gets me, and like I've seen the buy one get two free, and the funny part is that like a lot of those beats aren't terrible. Like they're not what I would, you know, they're not.
Oh, they're good. A lot of them.
Yeah, like they're not bootleg sounding. So like, I mean, maybe it's just so easy for those people to make beats that they're just like flinging them out there. So I don't think I would ever try to sell a license for a beat for $15 and
not anymore.
No, like there's just too much time and thought that goes into it for me.
Yeah, I mean, like when this whole thing started popping off, and you know, when beat sites first started becoming tangible to the everyday man, of course, like when I wanted to get in the game, I thought that's just how you did it. I was just like, all right, I'm gonna slap together these little beats right quick and try and sling them for, you know, $15 a piece. But
get them out the door.
Is, you know what I'm saying? the thing is that, you know, everyone's doing that now. So it's like, if I can get the next man's beat, who's, you know, maybe a little bit more talented than you, for the same price that you're selling your beat for, who do you think's going to get the money?
Yeah.
And, you know, at the end of the day, you know, even if I did sell, let's say, you know, 3 beats, 4 beats in a week, like how much money is that really?
Yeah,
you know,
you just worked a whole week for $60.
$60. You know what I'm saying? And you just spent how many hours? So break that down per hour? Like you're not.
Yeah.
You might as well just go work for McDonald's. You'd make more money.
Yeah.
If you went and worked for, you know, a fast food restaurant or whatever.
Yeah, man. I was just over at Moe's, and they're hiring for $10.25, so you can get in the door at $10.25 an hour, man. Like, if you're making $60 a week, you're honestly better off going and doing that. And that's, you know, I don't think that's a thing to deter people from it. Like, but that is kind of the reality of the reaction of what people are doing. Like, if you're selling $15 beats, like, really? I mean, unless that beat took you 15 minutes to make, then you're looking pretty good. But like, I doubt that, you know?
And if it did, please show me how you did it, because I want to make beats in 15 minutes. I have friends that say that they make beats in 15 minutes, and then I go and watch them, and, you know, they get the main idea down in 15 minutes. But I mean, you need more than the loop.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't count that. Like, they're like, all the elements are there. And that's true, but at the end of the day, the arrangement speaks so much more for your finished product than the loop. You know, like the hook is the most important part of the song, arguably, but the filler is kind of what makes the hook the most important part, in my opinion.
Yeah,
the verses and bridges and transitions and such.
I mean, I've definitely moved out of the lane when I make beats of like just creating a dope loop and then, you know, adding and removing elements from it. Like I mean, I think that's how people make beats in 15 minutes. And if that's what you have to do, then that's what you do. But like, I mean, there comes a point too where artistically, like I was like, I want to do more than this. And that was just a conscious decision I made for myself that I was like, yes, I need to get my music theory game up. I need to understand, rhythm and everything like that and figure out how to make this dope. And then also how to make those transitions that you hear and stuff that when the drop comes in, you're just like, oh, did he really do that with that track? You're like, okay. Yeah. All right.
For sure. Yeah. It's definitely super important learning all those, I guess you could call them tricks if you want to get people to, react a certain way to your music. And
there's a lot of like audio tricks that you can do. And I've learned a lot by listening to a lot more electronic music lately, because you hear some of the stuff and you watch the YouTube channels that some of the stuff that these guys do, and it's not like a huge difference what they're doing, but like I think automation and causing things to be dynamic throughout the track is a huge deal. That's a huge deal at this point.
And we're live.
10 minutes in. We're ready to go now.
Yeah. We're live. Yes, we've been live, and that's just what we do. We're live all the fucking time. Yeah. Not really though. Just when we record the podcast, we don't walk around like with microphones in our hands.
That would be dope.
What'd you say?
I said that would be dope though. If I could get paid to do that, I'd walk around with a microphone in my hand all the time.
Would you really?
Yeah, hell yeah. Do that. Just man on the street type shit. That would be pretty cool.
Really?
Yeah, man. Just walk up to people.
Fuck no. That is like my worst nightmare. Anyway, this is the Audio Files, episode number 3. You know what time it is. I'm Rashad Peters. My man, my co-host,
Dustin Brookshire, in the house.
That's right. In the house, motherfucker. And this is the Audio Files podcast. You're listening in live and direct. Probably not live because we don't do this live for you. Yeah, but it's live to us.
It is live to us. We're live and in person. And shout out to all the new likes on Facebook. We appreciate y'all. Hope you guys are listening and enjoying. Shoot us some feedback. Let us know what's good, what's not. We appreciate y'all.
Definitely love the likes. I appreciate it too. It is super, super cool to see people are actually, responding to this.
Yeah.
I mean, I really was expecting like one play on SoundCloud.
Right.
And like maybe a couple likes.
Yeah, right.
But like we actually, I mean, it's not like we got a ton, but I got more than what I thought we were going to get, So.
Exceeded expectations already.
Definitely.
Ready to rock. Well, so that just means we'll keep doing it.
Yeah, definitely. We will keep doing it. And hopefully it gets better.
Yeah.
So definitely we are, actually today I wanted to talk a little bit about something that, comes up a lot in the music community, and I kind of feel like it's hush hush, like people don't really talk about it too much for whatever reason.
Super secret squirrel.
Yeah, you better hide whenever you talk about quantizing. Okay, you better not let me hear you talk about quantizing.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? Because you're not a real musician if you're quantizing. Feel me? Even though they made it for you, you can't use it.
Don't use it. It's there, but don't use it.
It's there, but don't use it. So, I mean, like, I guess I kind of already gave my position on the whole thing, but I did want to discuss it. Like, why is that? Why is there such a stigma against, using quantize to fix the timing?
I think there's a lot of people out there that are super talented rhythmically and can play something into a track and play it almost in perfect time or give it kind of that natural swing that they're looking for, and don't need to quantize. I mean, more power to them. I can do it on occasion, but not every time. Like sometimes I'll play something in and just be sloppy, and I'm like, oh, yep, let's hit the shift pad 5 on the machine and quantize this up. Yeah, like I'm a fan of quantize just because sometimes I get a little lazy and it saves my butt from having some tracks that are just terrible.
Man, I definitely use quantize.
Yeah.
Like the quantize is, I feel like it's something that can definitely take the life away from your project. I feel like it's something that you have to use carefully.
Agreed.
Just to play devil's advocate, but it's also something that got me through, like got me moving on. Cause I could sit there and try and get it perfect for, half an hour or however long it's going to take me,
right?
Cause I'm not like some sort of, rhythmic guru or whatnot. Like I didn't grow up playing a rhythmic instrument or don't have really any kind of history with it. But quantize is there for people like that, that don't have that innate ability to keep time super perfect or even on a grid to where it doesn't sound bad. Because that's basically what it's for. Like you want to use it so that it doesn't sound terrible.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the big thing is like, I mean, you got to get it at least close to what you're playing. And I mean, there's a lot to be said for quantizing it and then adjusting it afterwards, using like nudge features. I know most DAWs have it, Logic, Machine, most of them have some type of nudge where you can kind of get like that a little bit more natural vibe to some of the notes. But I think a lot of it too, I mean, just comes into playing interestingly, like, not just making everything an eighth note or a quarter note or a 16th note when you're playing it. Like, I think there's a lot to be said for actually having a keyboard nowadays because you see so many people just using the piano roll and going to town. And you get stuff that's kind of just not dynamic because they're punching in the same note over and over again, or the same, length of note over and over again with the same velocity and everything like that.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like this whole conversation kind of leads into like a kind of broader topic about like not being lazy. It's really easy to be lazy. I kind of think that's where the stigma comes from too.
Yeah,
with the whole anti-quantize movement, I guess, if you wanted to put it that way.
It's a movement now.
There's a movement now. And the people who are anti-quantize have banded together.
Oh man, and they are haters.
They don't like you. No. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
And the
can't be their friend.
And the quantize people hate the anti-quantize. I'm being totally facetious. Like, I don't.
Mac.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of is.
90s PC and Mac era hate.
Yeah, man. I take the method. My stance on it is always whatever works. Like if I play something in and it's close, I might leave it and see what happens because I've done that time from time on a track and like just the natural, played it close to the metronome and been on actually playing and everything else fell in line. I played the drums one way, I played the bass and it grooved right along with the drums. I played a lead or chords to go with it and it was right on pace and everything was a little bit off of said grid. But it worked. So I mean, ultimately that's the thing. Does it work? Like, can you play it in and not quantize it, and does it sound good? If it sounds good, leave it. But if you play it in there and it's off, and it's making the whole thing lag one way or another, like I say, you got to go with the quantize.
Oh yeah, I mean definitely that's what it's for. You know what I'm saying? But there is definitely something to be said about not using it, as far as especially with hats, like creating grooves unquantized.
Drums especially, it seems like.
Oh yeah. Drums for sure are things that you can use that off the grid that will definitely give your song more character, without a doubt. I mean, I even use the swing function for quantize a lot.
Yeah. Me as well. I remember, going back to the Reason days when I used Reason, and I don't use Reason a lot anymore, but the regroove function, the regroove function in Reason was dope because it was kind of that. It mimicked the MPC style, so you got kind of that MPC feel out of some software.
Yeah, man. And like I said, I think I've mentioned this on a podcast before. Or after, I don't know. We bank our podcast, so this, you might be listening to something that's episode 4 or whatever, and we recorded it some time ago. But I did mention this, that I've seen people make bangers on Reason 4.
Oh yeah.
With nothing, no keyboard, anything, just their laptop and
drawing notes in.
Yeah, drawing notes in, but the detail that they had put into at the MIDI editing is what really sets it apart. You know, making sure that each note has the proper what's the word I'm looking for? How hard or soft velocity.
The velocity, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like the proper velocity or like varied velocities, and you know, the timing's a little off, or you know, it has its own swing.
Yeah.
Is basically what I'm trying to say.
I think the velocity thing is a big thing because when you look at, you know, keyboard players or people who are really skilled playing the piano, like part of what they get out of their performances is how they're hitting the notes, how hard, how soft, timing wise. You know, it may only be a split second that they press one note in a chord before the other two, but it kind of does that little thing where it hits your ear and, you know, it plays with your emotion a little bit differently than if you were hitting all three notes at the same time, or if you keyed them into your DAW and they all have the same exact velocity. There's some subtleties there that are definitely nice to hear.
It's a definite, like that was a big thing that I learned before I had a MIDI keyboard was, you know, velocity mattered.
Yeah.
When, you know, even your drums, anything, you know, it just gives it a different type of emotion. But it goes back to not being lazy too, because there are a lot of beats that I phoned in and was just like, fuck it, like it's good enough. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna go any further with this.
Yeah,
this is just what it's gonna be. But you can't be that way.
It's so easy from the bedroom producer standpoint to get lazy. You know, you have a job, and chances are you have a job unless, you know, you're in school or whatever still. But I mean, you know, there's so many different things that can distract you from actually getting down to, you know, making music and just not being lazy about it. And it's still something to this day because I pull double duty, and I know you pull double duty too, but like you get home and you're just like, I can't do it right now. And like that feeling will kill momentum faster than anything probably.
For sure it will. Yeah. Definitely will. And I mean, sometimes you just got to be honest with yourself too. You know, I have a bunch of beats on my hard drive that I probably did in like 10 minutes just because I wanted to do something. Yeah. And I didn't want to though. Like I have beats on my hard drive called I Didn't Want to Do This. Like real story.
No, I have a couple that are like F this shit. You know, like you just get, because like sometimes you get started and you just start making it and you're like, this is terrible. This is
tired. I want to go to bed. I've been working all day.
I have no desire to finish this.
Yeah. But I mean, like, I think even those are important though, because at least you showed up. Like at least it wasn't like, you know, you completely called in, even though like I get weird about it now, especially since I'm so deep in it now. Like I've committed now. Yeah. At this point, like if I were to just be like, nah, fuck music, people would be like, well, what? And what are you going to do now? Because you're, you know, like, what the fuck? Like you're working, you know, I'm working I wouldn't say a dead end job, but it's not a job I'm passionate about. And,
right.
You know, like it wouldn't be ideal to just stop chasing this dream at this point.
Exactly.
But at the same time, you know, it gets to the point where I'm just like, man, am I crazy? Like, am I crazy doing this right now? You know, like this is almost too much.
I know there's probably 100 memes out there that say that, you know, artistic people have to be somewhat crazy, you know, like because it takes a level of instability to sometimes do the stuff that you do when you're creating, because you know, to create there is steps and kind of a path that you can follow, but ultimately when it comes down to your own creativity, there's no path for that. You have to figure out what you're going to do, and sometimes you got to just run off into the forest and hope you don't hit a tree and find this new golden path that's going to take you to the promised land.
100%. Yeah, definitely. I mean, and kind of piggybacking off of that a little bit, I actually ran across a Facebook ad. This is so weird. I ran across a Facebook ad. Have you ever heard of a company called Quantize Notes? I think that's
Quantize Courses. Yeah. Keith from Quantize Courses.
Yeah.
He's an Ableton certified trainer, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yes. that I just ran across it. I had not been aware that was even a thing, but he ran a Facebook ad that was, it was probably one of the most informative articles on like just being creative inside of a DAW, and just basically techniques to use in order to get out of, the loop mode, when you're just staring at a loop. It was one of the most informative articles that I've read about that kind of stuff. And it was an ad. I saved it. Yeah, I saved it. I feel weird like posting his ad on the Facebook page, but I think I might just have to do it because it's not like a short little, 5 things to do, like you see all the time, 5 quick steps to getting out of
finish more beats today.
Right. But it is that time. It's like finish more beats now or get out of loop lock or whatever the fuck it's called. You'll see on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
But it's so detailed in how he's laying out like the steps to take, how many, variations you should make.
Oh, interesting.
It's just, and it's like, I don't want to give too much of it away because, you should really check his site out and his articles. They actually seem like they're really good. But I've checked out one of his courses when he dropped it through a site and it was a discount on the course. His courses aren't cheap by any means. So like if you're gonna check it out, definitely be prepared to spend like in that upper like $40-$50 range. I think some of them start at like 60. Wow. But he had a harmony and stabs pack, which was basically, it was part music theory and part sound design. And the music theory, if you're an Ableton user, was really helpful. He kind of laid down some real good like cheats and real good easy steps for you to get into music theory. So for anybody who's struggling with music theory and is an Ableton user, I can definitely recommend that course. If you know intervals and scales and chords already, it's not worth it from a music theory aspect, but for somebody just beginning, it definitely is. And then as a bonus, he does some pretty cool stuff with Massive and sound design. That's pretty helpful. Helps you understand it a little bit better. Yeah, it's always good to know Massive and how to get what you want out of that, because you can make pretty much anything you want in Massive. Oh yeah, like the wavetables are second to none. You probably heard them in 1,000 electronic songs, but probably way more than that, honestly. Yeah. But Massive is always clutch. Definitely. But like I said, man, I can't even talk about it enough how good that article was. It really was like a very kind of eye-opening way of looking at how to create inside of a DAW. People don't really lay it out the way that he did. So, moving on, we were talking about Quantize and, whether or not you should use it. I just to kind of put a bow on that whole topic, I'm definitely for Quantize. I definitely think that you can overuse it too. It's like you should use it with caution. Yep. But that's what it's there for. Of course, use that shit. Like, don't listen to anybody that's telling you, "Oh, I don't quantize my beats." Like, I fucking, I put 0. I pull that slider all the way down to 0. It's like, all right, well, I'm still at 100. And don't believe the hype. Yeah, it's okay, man. Yep. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's there. If anybody ever tells you not to use something that's in your DAW, tell them, well, then why is it there? Right. Yeah. I'm saying. Crazy person. Why did they put it there? That doesn't make any sense. I think they put it there for me. Yeah, that's right. Use that shit. me and probably a good percentage of other people as well. Yeah, definitely. You mentioned Ableton earlier, though. That's something else I actually wanted to talk about too. Yeah. Just because, what the fuck? It's huge. Been like 2016 has been the year of Ableton. Oh, yeah. Am I wrong? No. I feel like every fucking famous producer at this point has just switched. It really abandoned everything else. Yeah, it really started to pick up momentum last year, end of 2015, it seems like. And this year has just been like, it seems like every YouTube video you turn on, they're using Ableton. Logic is still pretty prevalent. It's like number 2. Yeah, still.
Yeah, Reason is still there. FL Studio is definitely. I may even put FL above Logic at this point, because there's a lot of FL users out there as well.
They've embraced their trap side.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I think part of it is like the transition from FL to something like Logic or Pro Tools is pretty steep, I would say. Like, in my opinion, the jump from that is pretty steep. But I think the jump from FL to something like Ableton, where you're still using kind of like a scene clips method for composing, I think it's pretty similar. And then, I mean, the effects and everything, and just the automation and everything in Ableton, it seems so smooth. I haven't used it a whole lot, but everybody I watch on YouTube is using it and just flying around doing stuff.
Yeah, definitely. It seems like, especially when you accompany it with their hardware, like either the Launchpad or the Ableton Push.
Yep.
It seems like it's even that much more powerful. Especially that Push 2, man. That Push 2 looks so damn cool. It just looks cool.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to use it. It looks like a fucking Benz or some shit like that. I want to touch it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, the screens look hella extra wet and juicy and shit. And it's like, they're beautiful. And then, like, all of the fucking colors on the pads. Like, dude.
Yeah. The first Push came out and it was kind of underwhelming. Like, it just looked like a kind of a little bit more advanced Launchpad. But yeah, you're right. That Push 2 came out and it was just like, oh, hello.
Look at me.
Hello, beautiful.
And I'm like an inch thick.
Yeah.
And I'm one chord. You don't have to worry about power. I don't think you have to worry about power.
No,
cord.
I think that one does have external power.
Yeah, it has external. Okay.
Yeah.
But even still.
But yeah, even with that, I may be wrong on that. Somebody might have to correct me on that. But I thought there was an external power. Yeah, I know the Machine Studio is an external power. I got an old school MK1 machine, so I'm rocking just USB. But yeah, there is something to be said for that simplicity of just being able to plug and play and just go.
Just one chord. It's so nice. That's how the studio is, the MPC Studio.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask, are you going to switch?
Man, they threw me an email the other day, and it was, because I'm sure everybody at some point was an Ableton Lite user.
Yeah, I still have Ableton Lite.
Right. Like, you picked up a piece of hardware, and it was like, hey, you get free Ableton Lite with this. They shot me an email the other day and said I could upgrade to the standard for, I think, $350. This wasn't like a special email just for me. It's a sale that they're having, but they were running a discount on upgrades. I think it was like $350 for the standard, or I want to say it was somewhere like $649 for the suite version. And I looked at it and I put my phone down. And then 20 minutes later, I looked at it again. I'm very much on the fence. Like, I feel like I just got into Logic because I came from Pro Tools and Reason. And then I got into the Machine pretty heavy for a while. The Machine kind of had it lacks in certain areas that I needed it not to lack in. And then I jumped to Logic, and Logic has definitely been the winner for me. And I feel like every day that I'm in Logic, I'm like, oh, I learned something new. Like the stereo interleave thing. We were talking about it before the podcast, like the ability to put the left side of a stereo track on one channel and the right side on the other. Like, I just figured that out the other day and was like, oh, this is amazing. I was able to do this in Pro Tools like 3 years ago, but just figured it out in Logic. So yeah, like I don't know if I'm ready to learn a new DAW at this point.
Man, that's the intimidating part, right? Is like, man, I'm gonna have to start over with a new DAW and like have to go through. I just went through that shit with Logic, and I'm in the similar boat too. Like, I switched over to Logic from basically Pro Tools. I was running everything in Pro Tools, but it was it was that learning curve. I was just like, man, fuck, I don't know where things are. Is the thing. Like, I just don't know the hotkeys, and I don't know where things are. Like, I know what I want to do, but like how, what, where, like what the fuck? And at the end of the day, use what works for you. I kind of feel like is the idea that you should probably have. Yeah. But if I'm missing out, like, it's total FOMO. Like it makes no rational sense.
Yeah.
Why should I switch over to Ableton just because everybody else is?
It's kind of what it feels like at this point.
Yeah.
And it's I mean, for me, getting more into Logic now, like, and actually getting in and understanding more of Logic, I feel like there's not such a huge difference between Ableton and Logic for me. But like the differences aren't enough for me to plop down $350 at this point, and jump into it. I do like their insert setup, where it kind of sets it up at the bottom in like a chain, and the ability to macro stuff is really easy within Ableton, whereas in Logic you have like the smart controls to get in there and do stuff, but I don't ever really find myself using it that much because it's not really user friendly to me, I guess.
Yeah, I just don't use the smart controls at all. I use Command L. If I'm going to map anything to a controller,
yeah,
Command L is, that's the easiest way. You just click on the parameter, Command L, and then it maps.
Yeah.
To whatever you're using. But I mean, the thing is, it's just like I've seen I wouldn't say every, but I've watched a lot of Ableton videos, and I've seen all of the advantages to using Ableton with the clips and the way that you can basically like stutter whole sections of songs really easy on the launch pad or whatever.
Right.
And it's like I can do all that already. It's not wrapped up nice and neat like in Ableton, but I can definitely take the steps in order to be able to do shit just like that.
I agree. Yeah. There's not a whole lot of differences between a lot of the DAWs and the functions of what you can do. You mentioned like having to learn a new DAW, like having to actually go in and find the shit that you did in another DAW and a new DAW is one of the most frustrating feelings, because a lot of them will use different terminology, and you're in there looking for something that maybe you did in Pro Tools but can't do in Logic. I can't think of an example right now, but there's been times while I've been trying to learn Logic where I'm like, God, I know where this was in Pro Tools.
Fucking consolidate audio regions.
Yes.
For the longest time, I was like, how do you do this?
Yep.
And they're like, oh, well, there's a couple different ways. And they're like, well, bounce in place. And I was like, I was like, that's kind of not the same thing, but
that's a good example though. Yeah.
Like it works the same way, I guess, kind of.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. And just like that, it's definitely use what you're comfortable with. Like that's my main thing. Like because you don't want to be lazy and you don't want to be frustrated by a piece of software. You got to get comfortable with it and just go with it. And that's the reason I'm not switching at this point. I mean, there's some cool stuff in Ableton Live that I've seen, but it's definitely not enough to push me over the top at this point.
Maybe I got to go to like a beat conference or some shit and get wowed by Stoney.
You're right.
Like, what I'm saying, to get converted. I feel like that's what those are now. They're like big, just Ableton sponsored and I sponsored cult fucking meetings now. They're like, come to our side. Look at what we can do. You see?
Yeah.
Ooh, look at the lights.
Exactly. It's so pretty. It flashes.
Yeah. But it is sick though. Like that's dope that people are taking the time to actually show what you can do with these pieces of software. And because back in the day, like when YouTube wasn't YouTube, like what it is now, there wasn't a lot of resources.
No, and everything was super secret society almost. Like it was like if you talk to another audio engineer, it was like, oh, what are you doing for this? And it's like, I can't tell you that.
Yeah. And you're like watching them and they're watching you.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's like, well, why am I here? Like
they're doing shit to throw you off, just to mess you up. Like, yeah, no, that's definitely not what we're about. Like it's you got to share the information at this point, because I think that's the only way we get better.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of this info is like behind paywalls too, and I kind of see that like kind of going away. Not so much. Like a lot of people still do have premium content. I don't think that'll ever go away.
No. Nor do I think it really should. Like, I mean, I think there's a lot of people out there that have spent a lot of time and invested a lot in their craft, and they share a lot of it on YouTube. There's a lot of creators that share a lot of stuff on YouTube, and then they back it up with additional premium content. That's the ones, those are the people I usually follow on YouTube, are the ones that are giving out good free content. And then if I feel like I need to support them, or if they have some content that's free, usually I hesitate way less. I'll be quicker to jump on something.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess that's like kind of online marketing 101. Give away, great free stuff.
Yep.
And give it away. Don't like try and sell behind it or some shit like that.
It's like the people at the mall. Do you want to try one of our fresh baked cookies?
Yes, I would.
Yeah. Why? Yes, actually, I would.
Well, shit, give me a dozen of them.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then you walked out with a dozen overpriced cookies. You could have bought 3 boxes and made 36 cookies at home, but no.
It's the time.
That's
the time, right?
That's it.
But yeah, man, that's that whole Ableton movement. God bless you. If you were like a Logic user,
yeah,
and you've been using Logic for years, I get it. But if you are like super new to using whatever DAW you're using and you want to jump ship to Ableton, like I said, more power to you.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that it's a bad thing either way.
No,
I think that Ableton has a lot to offer, but at the end of the day.
Yeah, the only thing I've never, I'm sure I've heard music come out of Ableton. I'm sure at one point in all of the music that I've listened to, I've heard something come out of Ableton. Sound-wise, I don't know if I hear anything different than any other DAW, though. And who's to say there's any difference between Logic and Pro Tools? Like, they try to hype it up sometimes, the industry does, that, there's a difference between these DAWs. I think ultimately the A to D converters and the D to A converters in the software and the hardware, that's more important than some software that you're using. I think ultimately, if you know what you're doing, you're going to get the sound you want out of a DAW. I
think so. I think that there's definitely a sound to certain DAWs, honestly, just because of the dither. If you are recording like that, I usually record at a little bit higher. What is that? The sample rate.
Yeah.
But if you're just going 44.1, just regular bit rate, you're not usually even going to be using dither like that. So
no.
You probably wouldn't notice too much. And even still, like, honestly, I can still kind of tell a Reason beat, like if it's completely in Reason.
Yeah.
I could still kind of tell.
Reason has a very distinct sound when I don't know. I haven't been able to put my finger on it yet, like what it is. I don't know if it's the drums or
their stock sounds definitely have a sound.
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
But even when you add your own samples in there, it seems to still have a sound, for lack of it. Like, we're just gonna put this big mystery, this big clout on Reason right now. The Reason.
And I feel
sound.
like that's the DAW that's kind of lost right now.
Yeah,
like Reason is not as they just released Reason 9 too, which is cool, but you don't see a lot of Reason usage.
No, not especially not the way it was in the early days of YouTube and like the Reason 4, Reason 5, Reason 6 even days. Like, Reason was pretty popping on YouTube and during those versions, and it's definitely disappeared. But yeah, I think you said, I think you hit it just right. Like, they're a little bit lost. Like the upgrades and stuff that they're making to Reason, with everything being self-contained within Reason. Like, that's
what hurt them.
Yeah. Like, they're kind of behind the 8-ball a little bit. Like, they just added in like the easy chord feature and stuff like that. And that's something that a lot of DAWs have had for a couple of years ago. Yeah. So you're talking about new features, quote unquote, that you're just adding in that have been around for several years. You're not impressing me with that personally.
Yeah, and the rack extensions just it's not expansive enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just and I have a soft spot in my heart for Reason.
I do too. I definitely don't feel like talking bad about it, but like they've fallen behind. They got to find a way to bounce back. And I'm they like what they do over there from what I've seen. They like that they keep everything contained because then they can kind of ensure that everything is stable. You know, when you're not messing with third-party programs within a program, you know, you have a certain level of stability that you may not get out of something else. So
wouldn't it be fucked up if Reason ended up being like the Mac of the audio world? Like they had a down period for a few years and then they came back with some like crazy shit, some groundbreaking audio work.
Yeah.
and it's like all of a sudden Reason's back on top.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. I'm rooting for Reason. I really want to see, you know, more of that in the industry, honestly, but I get it. Like I'm just, you know, and you can rewire it too. So like if you really, really want to use Reason, you don't even have to use it native. You can use it in a DAW. So it makes sense.
Definitely.
You know? So, but anyway, speaking of like using shit in DAWs, you like that segue? What are two? We shoot notes like back and forth about what we're going to talk about. This isn't completely off the top of the dome.
No,
a little inside baseball for you.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about today like two soft synths that you feel really stand out to you. I said that you couldn't live without, but I mean, you know, however you want to phrase it, what are two of your favorite soft synths that you're using right now, and like what makes them your favorites?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna go with something that I already know is pretty much the fan favorite, and it's Serum. Yeah, like I mean, honestly, Serum to me is like if you took Massive and FM8, add in a little bit of Contact, and then, you know, a whole effect rack from like Absinthe behind it, you would end up with Serum, because that's kind of what it is. Like it's a wavetable synth that has a shitload of wavetables built in. And then there's also a shitload of content out there, people that have made wavetables for it, and you can just add those in. I mean, if you've never watched videos on Serum, go on YouTube, because you'll find probably a billion of them, literally at this point. And there's people that take like JPEG images and drop it into one of the wavetables in there, and it creates a wavetable out of pictures.
It's fucked up. That's so crazy.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And then they just added the ability with this last update to, you know, up the LFOs. I think they went from 4 LFOs to now you can actually have 8.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and their effects are kind of second to none for me within a soft synth. Like their effects are crazy good. They're super, like, routing in Serum is super easy. Everything is drag and drop. And they put out updates frequently. So, I mean, I just got Serum probably within the last 3 months. And I think it's already had maybe 2 updates.
Wow.
And that was one of those, was the big one where it came with more LFOs and stuff like that. But, you know, a lot of it just fixes small stuff. And, you know, awesome soft synth. I mean, I think I'll switch the topic just slightly and say something else that I couldn't live without right now is not a soft synth, because, like, honestly, Serum has just taken over every other soft synth that I use at this point.
That's sick.
But, you know, one of the other things that, like, I can't live without right now is Isotope's Nectar.
Really?
Yeah, when I'm mixing down vocals, yeah, man, it's a sweet little plugin. Everything is kind of all inclusive with that too. You know, it's got EQ, compression, all sorts of saturation.
So it's like a channel strip,
basically. Yeah, basically.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, and then, you know, if you buy the full, there's a standard and a production version. The production version also comes with pitch correction and a breath control module, so that you can kind of take breaths out of stuff without having to do a crap load of editing in there. I don't know exactly how like the algorithms work on that, because I haven't actually used that feature very much, but I definitely use the EQ and the compression on there. I definitely use a lot of their presets in there, are just super nice. I grab their presets and do minor adjustments to all of it to get what I'm looking for out of it, and it's ready to go.
That's it.
Yeah, and a lot of it is just creating layers to vocals. I get a lot of vocals, hip hop vocals that are real dry, and it adds nice depth and nice elements to vocals for me.
When you say depth, like depth through effects, or depth through like tone?
Depth through like tone and effects, because there's a saturation and a drive in there. It has tape, tube, and there's one more.
Is it tape delay or tape saturation?
Tape saturation.
Okay.
But there is also a delay in there that you can set to milliseconds, so you can kind of emulate a tape type delay.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Isotope Nectar is
sounds all inclusive. What's the price point?
I think the standard version. Honestly, I caught the standard version on sale through Plugin Boutique for $29.99.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes. And then Isotope...
Was it like a Black Friday sale? Or just a regular old sale?
You know what? Honestly, I think they've been running it at $29.99 for a few months now. Really? Yeah, if you jump on Plugin Boutique, you might be able to still find it at like a $29 or a $39.99 price point. And it's...
There.
Yeah,
no.
And I mean, it's all vocals. Like, I mean, there's some awesome hip hop and rap vocals settings in there. There's some great pop settings in there. They even have stuff in there for voiceovers. So if we wanted to get fancy and throw some effects on our podcast, we may just have to try it out and do it one time.
Oh shit.
So give us that super cool radio voice. But
I'm with it.
Yeah, those are my two go-tos right now. Serum and Isotope's Nectar. Those are the two things that if you took all my other plugins away from me, I could live off of just those two, because the Isotope, like everything being included in Isotope with the EQ, the compression, everything else. It has a whole rack basically of stuff that you can use within it. It makes it nice, and it's kind to your CPU too. So if you don't have a real beefy computer, you can get away with throwing quite a few instances of Isotope Nectar on there and not have your computer freaking out on you. It's
lightweight, huh? So it's not like a bus sort of thing for you. It's something that you use on.
I do a lot of bus compressing not bus compressing, but bus processing. When I'm mixing, usually my main track, when I'm doing a vocal, consists of EQ, compression, and then the Slate Digital stuff. Slate Digital and Isotope Nectar are honestly, if you took Slate Digital stuff away from me, I might cry a little bit. If I'm gonna have to backtrack on what I said there. I lied, people. Sorry, because the Slate Digital shit is legit too. Because there's a bunch of stuff within the Slate Digital, but yeah, Slate Digital is the same way. It's basically a container plugin that has modules built in, a la like Guitar Rig or something. If anybody's ever familiar with Guitar Rig,
like 500 series modules, right?
Yeah, you can pull components and add them in there. And Slate Digital is the same way. Isotope Nectar is the same thing. It has actually a harmony module built into it as well. Plate reverb in there. If you go with the production version, you get the pitch editor as well. The FX module, so you can do echoes and everything like that. And I mean, a ton of presets. De-essers are in there, EQ, compressor, everything. Like it's really an all-inclusive unit, and it's really easy. You just click a button to turn each function off on the side, because there's about 10 or 12 different buttons, I think, on the left-hand side that you can go with.
So it's Slate Digital for you and Nectar?
Yeah, those are when I'm doing vocals.
Are the two plugins.
Yeah, that's when I'm doing vocals. That's definitely what I use. Those are my go-to, because the Slate Digital stuff it's money. We've touched on it before, I'm sure.
I don't know if that one's going to get released. The one in which we talked about our love for Steven Slate stuff,
right? And
our envy of his life,
our envy of his hair and his wife.
Yeah, and his whole entire just life right now. He's killing it right now.
Yeah,
shout out to Steven Slate.
Yeah, the Slate. If anybody out there has hesitated on if you're heavy into mixing and your mixing budget provides you what I think $25 a month, just go ahead and get the Slate Digital stuff. Like, it's so worth it. The tape module in there is dope. The reverb they give you is an emulation of the Lexicon reverb. All of the EQs are either modeled after SSLs or Neves. There's 2 pre's in there. There's compressors. They just added a de-esser in there. There's a bunch of other cool plugins. There's this one called Revival that is actually free on their website. If you go download the virtual mix rack, they have 2 or 3 plugins that are free for it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that Slate Digital stuff, it really is. I mean, I've heard mixes done on it, and I can't tell you from a personal standpoint, but definitely the work that I've heard done on it is second to none. So definitely check out that Steven Slate. I'll touch on real quick my couple of plugins that I definitely couldn't live without, and I'll keep it in the soft synth family. For one, definitely number one would be Obscurium. Obscurium by Sugar Bytes is like one of the most creative synths that I've seen ever, and that's not even, I'm talking about hardware, software, anything. If you look it up on Sugar Bytes website, you can get a free trial, and it basically is it's like a graphic style matrix in which each kind of line of the graph is dedicated to a specific either effect or like a tone or a tonal effect. It's really, really creative, and each of them have like sliders that you can use to modulate the sound. So for an example, if you wanted to create, let's say, some sort of like deep ARP sound, it would have a setting for ARP, which would also have a slider, which you can move up and down on a graph. And it is represented by like colors that will let you know how intense that specific modulation will be. Wow. You have to see it. It's not even something that I can almost describe to you, but it just lets you get so creative in creating like these thick harmonies, or not even harmonies, but just thick like lead lines, arps, even basses. Wow. And also the presets that it comes with, they're incredible. Like, they really took the time to really show you through presets, because I think that's probably one of the most useful ways to use presets is to learn how to actually use the plugin itself.
Without a doubt.
Like you should use them while you're learning, to actually get to a point where you can make your own patches. But the point of presets in my eyes has always been to learn how to do this on my own. But I just can't even speak enough about that plugin. It's just so amazing. It's really, it's something that I use in almost every single song that I'm making, unless it's some sort of acoustic style, an electronic sort of jam that I'm trying to put down. But
and it looks like it's a pretty friendly price point too, at only $99.
Oh, all Sugar Bytes stuff is very modestly priced. Very modestly priced. It's worth checking out for $99 too, and you get a free demo. I'm pretty sure you get a free demo of Obscure. It's something that you'll hear it a lot in like Metro Boomin stuff. All of those TM88 guys, they use a lot of Sugar Bytes and a lot of Obscurium now. They're moving into that sort of realm. The second plugin that I wanted to talk about real quick was oh man, why am I blanking on the name right now? Oh my gosh, pressure's on. I'm looking through my plugin list too. I had it just a second ago. It's this what am I saying? It's the GeForce Mini Monster. It's basically a Moog style, like I would say it's a mini Moog sort of style soft synth. It's been out for a while, but it's one of the best like bass sound. Like when we talked about the Korg, micro Korg earlier in the podcast and how it's known for its bass. Yeah. I feel like this soft synth is closest to that sound, in a virtual setting. Like, I feel like you can achieve that sound with this plugin the easiest. It doesn't have a vocoder like the micro Korg does, but it does have 2 oscillators and the tone that you get out of the filter in this is, it's just it's so lush and warm, like I love the tone that this thing gives more than anything. And that's what kind of made me put it on the list as things that I couldn't live without, because I don't know. My base station too, it's an analog synth. Like, before I had my base station, this was, I couldn't even find another plugin that would give me tone like this one would without touching it, without running it through any sort of processing. So, those are my 2 cents that I think you definitely should check out.
That's a good one too. This stuff that's coming out, like the way they emulate some of the old sound used to get out of hardware, it's phenomenal. Like, how are you doing this? Like, how are you writing these little imperfections that would come out of this hardware into software? It's kind of a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And the Mini Monster, you're going to hear like a lot of DJ Mustard type of synths. Yeah, a lot of funky basses and stuff like that. Yeah, which is dope.
I think it's great. Like, as much as I listen to electronic music nowadays, more so than hip hop, like some of the hip hop I've gone back and listened to, like, I really enjoy because I hear acoustic instruments in there. There's real drums in a lot of it again. And real keys, or what sound like real keys. It's, not everything's electronic on that side. So I definitely enjoy that. And we could get into a whole conversation about music. I was
gonna say, man, that's a whole nother hour and a half conversation right there. We definitely have to have like a hip hop centric episode here soon.
Yeah, definitely.
Where we just kind of focus on music. But for this episode, I think that's a wrap, bro. Yeah. I don't know how long we've been doing it, but it feels like a wrap.
Yep. Feels like a good time. I had a good time. Did you have a good time?
I think I did. My pants are off, so that's a good sign.
Hey! Just for the record, we're across the country from each other.
We're across the country, yeah, definitely.
That can happen.
Yeah, man. So that's gonna wrap episode 3. Yep. We never plug our email address. I don't know why. I kind of forgot that we had it. I'm gonna keep it real with you guys. Yeah. But that's definitely the best way to get in contact with us. I'd put a button on Facebook too for you to email us. So, but you could find us at the audiophilespodcast@gmail.com. Yep.
And
you could talk to us, please. We will talk back. We're not robots or anything like that.
No, we're real people, real life.
So you can find us on Facebook too, the Audiophiles Podcast.
Yep.
Give our page a like. Thank you to everyone who liked the page this past weeks. You really did you made my days that much easier to get through.
That's so right. And hopefully we made your day that much easier to get through.
That's what we're here to do. We appreciate every single one of you.
Yeah.
And if we hear from you, we promise we'll do our best to get back to you. By do our best, I mean we're definitely going to get back. We might even stalk you.
Yeah, a little bit. You might not hear the end of us. Sorry.
Yeah. So anyway, you can find me online at ds_Wyatt on Instagram. Yep. You go ahead, plug your Facebook.
Yep. Find me on Facebook, Dustin Brookshire. Like the page, the Audiophiles. That's where we're at. Yeah, we'll be on there. Everybody throw some comments on there. Let us know what's good. Let us know what's bad. Yeah, if you tell us what's bad, we may not change it, but we at least want to hear from you anyways.
Yeah, man. So
yes, sir.
I think we're going to end this Ramble Fest.
Yes, sir.
See ya.
Peace.